It was a cold morning, the kind that makes you want to stay in bed a little longer, wrapped in the warmth of your blankets. But something pulled me out of my slumber that day. A sense of urgency, a feeling that something important was about to happen when I first saw the chick. It was nestled in a makeshift nest, barely visible among the twigs and leaves. Its tiny body shivered in the cold, and I could see it struggling to stay warm. It was small and fragile, a delicate life that seemed to hang by a thread. I gently picked it up, feeling its warmth against my skin. It was so light, almost weightless, and I could feel its tiny heartbeat against my palm. It lay in the palm of my hand. Its eyes were closed, and it seemed to be in a deep sleep, unaware of the world around it. I could see its tiny chest rising and falling with each breath, a sign that it was still fighting to stay alive. It was just a tiny heartbeat, but it was enough to give me hope. I knew that as long as that heartbeat continued, there was a chance for this little one to survive. I knew I had to care for it. There was no question in my mind. This tiny creature needed me, and I was determined to do everything in my power to help it. I knew I had to keep it alive. The responsibility weighed heavily on me, but I was ready to take it on. I prepared a special food for the chick, something that would give it the nutrients it needed to grow strong. I prepared a special food for the chick. It was a mix of Cerelac and water, a simple yet effective solution. I carefully measured the ingredients, making sure to get the proportions just right. This was a delicate process, and I couldn't afford to make any mistakes. I used a syringe to feed the chick. It was a slow and gentle process, one that required patience and a steady hand. I had to be careful not to overwhelm the tiny bird, giving it just enough to keep it nourished. It was slow and gentle. Each drop of food was a lifeline, a chance for the chick to gain strength. I watched as it slowly began to respond, its tiny body absorbing the nutrients it so desperately needed. I wanted to make sure the chick was getting enough to eat. I monitored its progress closely, watching for any signs of improvement. It was a delicate balance, and I had to be vigilant. The chick was weak at first. It couldn't eat much, but I persisted. I knew that with time and care it would start to gain strength. I fed the chick every few hours, making sure it had a steady supply of food. I fed the chick every few hours. It was a demanding schedule, but I was committed. Each feeding session was a step towards recovery, a chance for the chick to grow stronger. And slowly, it began to gain strength. It started to grow. Its tiny body filled out and its feathers began to develop. It was a remarkable transformation, one that filled me with hope and determination. It was amazing to see this tiny creature, once so fragile and weak, was now showing signs of life. It was a testament to the power of care and dedication. This tiny creature was fighting for life. Every day was a battle, but it was one that we were winning together. I was inspired by its resilience, its will to survive. I was determined to help it. I knew that with my care and support, this little bird had a chance. It was a journey we were on together, and I was ready to see it through. I knew it would be a long journey, but I was ready. Ready to give this tiny heartbeat a chance at life, to see it grow and thrive. It was a journey of hope, determination, and love. The first few days were the hardest. The chick was so tiny and fragile, it seemed like the slightest mishap could be disastrous. I was constantly worried about its well-being, and every moment felt like a test of my ability to care for this delicate life. The chick needed to be fed every few hours. It needed constant warmth. I had to set alarms throughout the night to ensure I didn't miss a feeding. The syringe became an essential tool, and I learned to handle it with precision and care. I made a nest for it in a small box. This box became its world, a safe haven where it could grow and gain strength. I spent hours making sure it was just right. I lined it with soft cloths. These cloths provided the comfort and warmth the chick needed, mimicking the softness of a mother's feathers. I chose the softest materials I could find, ensuring the chick would feel secure. I made sure the chick was always warm and comfortable. Temperature was crucial, and I frequently checked to make sure it was just right. The chick's comfort was my top priority. I would hold the chick in my hand to feed it. This close contact was important, not just for feeding, but for bonding. The chick needed to feel safe and loved. I would gently open its beak with my fingernail. This required a delicate touch as the chick was so small and fragile. Each feeding was a careful process. Then I would carefully insert the syringe. The syringe had to be positioned just right to ensure the chick could swallow the food without choking. It was a skill I had to master quickly. I would slowly push the food into the chick's mouth. the chick would swallow. Each successful feeding felt like a small victory, a step towards the chick's survival. It was such a small movement, but it was a sign of life, a sign that the chick was fighting to survive. These tiny movements gave me hope, but it filled me with such joy. The bond between us grew stronger with each feeding. The chick's progress, no matter how small, was a source of immense happiness. Each day the chick grew a little stronger. Its movements became more coordinated, and it started to show signs of curiosity about its surroundings. It ate a little more, its appetite increased, and feeding times became less stressful. The chick was learning to trust me, and I was learning to understand its needs. It started to open its eyes. This was a monumental moment, a sign that the chick was developing normally. Seeing those tiny eyes open for the first time was unforgettable. It was amazing to watch. Every day brought new changes, new milestones. The chick was transforming before my eyes. This tiny creature was coming to life. Its personality began to emerge, and it started to interact more with its environment. It was my responsibility to care for it. This responsibility was both daunting and rewarding. I was committed to giving the chick the best start in life. I was determined to do my best. The journey was challenging, but every moment was worth it. The chick's survival depended on my dedication and care. By day 3, the chick had changed. It was no longer just a tiny heartbeat, it was starting to grow. Tiny feathers were beginning to emerge. They were like soft down. They covered the chick's body. The chick was still very delicate, and it still needed my constant care, but it was getting stronger. I could see it in its eyes. I could feel it in its tiny body. The chick was starting to explore its world. It would peek out of its box. It would look around with curiosity. It was starting to develop a personality. It was becoming more than just a chick. It was becoming my companion. Over the next week, the chick grew quickly. It was amazing to see the transformation. Its small down feathers were replaced. Larger feathers grew in. They were white and beautiful. The chick's wings were developing. It was starting to look more and more like a pigeon. Feeding the chick was easier now. I had switched from the syringe. Now I used a syringe lock and a spoon. The chick was strong enough to eat from the spoon. It loved to eat. It would chirp loudly when it was hungry. The chick was also becoming more active. It would flap its wings. It would try to walk around its box. It was full of energy. It was ready to explore the world outside its box. Section 5. Learning to fly. By day 17, the chick was almost unrecognizable. It had transformed into a young pigeon. Its feathers were fully grown. Its wings were strong. It was ready to fly. I took the pigeon outside for the first time. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. The birds were singing. The pigeon seemed a little scared at first, but it quickly became curious. It started to flap its wings. It wanted to fly. I held the pigeon in my hands. I gently tossed it into the air. It flapped its wings furiously. It stayed aloft for a few seconds. Then it landed clumsily on the ground. I could tell it was disappointed. It wanted to soar through the air, but it would take time. Section 6. First steps, first falls. Over the next few days, the pigeon practiced flying. It would flap its wings with all its might. It would take small leaps into the air. Sometimes it would even manage to fly for a short distance, but it still had a lot to learn. Watching the pigeon learn to fly was an incredible experience. It was full of determination. It refused to give up. Even when it fell, it would get back up and try again. I was so proud of the pigeon's progress. It had come so far from that tiny chick I held in my hand. It was now a strong and determined young bird. It was ready to take on the world. Section 7. Growing confidence, growing wings. Each day the pigeon grew stronger. Its flights became more controlled. It was no longer just flapping its wings frantically. It was starting to understand how to use its body. It was learning how to soar through the air. The pigeon was also becoming more independent. It would often fly off on its own. It would explore the neighborhood, but it always came back to me. It knew I was its caretaker. It trusted me. The bond between us grew stronger every day. It was a bond built on trust and care. It was a reminder of the beauty of the natural world. It was a reminder of the incredible journey of life. Section 8. Into the Big Blue. This chapter is a journey of freedom and the beauty of nature as seen through the eyes of a pigeon. By day 26, the pigeon was a strong flyer. It had grown from a fragile fledgling into a magnificent bird. capable of navigating the skies with confidence and strength. It could soar through the air with grace and ease. Each flap of its wings was a testament to its resilience and determination. It was a beautiful sight to behold. The pigeon moved as if it were one with the wind, effortlessly gliding through the vast expanse of the sky. Its white feathers shone in the sunlight, reflecting the golden rays and creating a mesmerizing display of light and shadow. It looked so free and wild. The open sky was its playground, and it reveled in the boundless freedom that it had earned. I knew it was time for the pigeon to be truly free. It had outgrown the confines of its cage and was ready to embrace the world. I took it to a nearby park. The park was a serene haven with lush green trees and a clear blue sky that seemed to stretch on forever. It was a beautiful day. The sky was clear, the air was fresh, the perfect setting for a momentous occasion. I took the pigeon out of its carrier. It felt light and eager in my hands, ready to take on the world. It looked up at me with its bright, intelligent eyes. It seemed to understand. There was a silent communication between us, a mutual recognition of the journey we had shared. I tossed the pigeon into the air. It was a moment of liberation, a release of all the pent-up energy and desire for freedom. It soared high above me. Higher and higher it went, becoming a part of the sky it had longed to explore. It circled once, then twice. Each loop was a dance of joy, a celebration of its newfound freedom. It looked so happy and free. The pigeon was in its element, embracing the vastness of the sky with open wings. I watched as it disappeared into the distance. It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that our paths had diverged. My heart ached a little. Letting go was never easy, but it was the right thing to do. But I knew I had done the right thing. The pigeon was where it belonged, in the big blue sky, living its life to the fullest. Section 9. Farewell, little one. The pigeon never forgot me. It would often come back to visit. It would land on my shoulder. It would eat from my hand. It was a reminder of the incredible journey we had shared. Raising the pigeon from a tiny chick to a magnificent bird had been an amazing experience. It had taught me about the power of life. It had taught me about the importance of care and compassion. It had reminded me of the beauty of the natural world. It had reminded me of the incredible strength and resilience of animals. It was a journey I would never forget.